Welcome back to Podcast Recovery, everyone. We're your hosts, David O.
And Eric B.
And today we're joined by our very special guest, Tara. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about you, Eric?
I'm all right.
Wait, what did you play this morning? Tabletop?
I played platform tennis.
Platform tennis.
Platform tennis.
I don't know what that is.
At the Suburban Club in Baltimore County.
That is the bougiest thing I've ever heard.
Is that not table? It's not like table tennis?
No, it's not ping pong.
What platform tennis is it's a mix between,
Keep talking, I'm taking off my hoodie.
tennis, squash, like tennis and squash probably would be like the best way to, so you can hit off the wall. The court is actually half the size of a tennis court, but you have 12-foot chicken wire fencing all around you, so you can hit the ball off the wall.
Whoa.
What?
Yeah, and
Chicken wire?
yeah, chicken wire. It's specifically chicken wire. And then the court itself, you're raised off the ground about 4 feet. At some clubs, actually, at like BCC, Baltimore Country Club, you're raised off you're probably at 40 or 50 feet off the ground.
What?
On one side of the court. The other side, you're like 20 feet off the ground. But you're actually playing on these steel planks that are like the court is mixed in, like the paint. You actually take metal shillings and mix it in with the paint so that when you play in today it was snowing.
Hold on.
So you don't slip. You have gripping on the court and stuff. Yeah, it's great. It's so great.
Tennis. Yeah.
That is amazing. I played tennis all my life, but I've never heard of that.
Me too.
Really?
I grew up playing it, and then I got injured, and I taught it for 10 years and
Wow.
stuff. Yeah. I'm just getting back into it, and now that I have a daughter, I'm do I want to subject her to the tennis?
Don't do that.
Junior
Don't do that to your
lifestyle.
daughter.
No, I'm not. I'm going to let her do free play and stuff.
Yes.
Okay, enough with you, Eric.
Yeah.
Snooze button, you're done.
Snooze.
Where are you from?
I am from not far south from here, so right College Park, Maryland.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And
Technically it's Beltsville. But
Yeah. When were you first introduced to recovery?
my first introduction to recovery was being thrown by my dad into a rehab. Not
Okay.
literally.
I thought you were. I thought you were thrown across the room. I was like, oh no.
No. Yeah, my dad got me into my first rehab a few months after I really started using habitually.
Okay. And how much clean time do you have?
Now I have, let's see, it'll be
14 years.
Yeah, that's crazy. Once you hit 11 years,
Yeah.
for me, I just stopped remembering what year we're on.
right around 10. 10 was super cool.
Yeah.
10, I can't even describe the feeling how awesome 10 was.
It was very cool.
And then, the last couple I've just been
Single digits, I knew for sure. Snap, if you asked me, I knew 9 years, 8 years, whatever it was. But once I got past 10, I've stopped, now it's let me do the math.
Because also we're getting old and our brains suck. All right. Well, with all that out of the way, I'm going to turn it over to you to share your story with us. Take it away.
Okay. Let's see. After my first rehab, I had some other stints in rehab. I was not ready at that time.
How old were you?
Let's see. At that time, I was 19.
How'd you get started?
Let's
Let's
rewind.
Let's rewind. Yeah, let's rewind a little.
So
Be kind, rewind.
Okay. I was a high achieving type A, still am. Let's not act like I haven't recovered from that.
Yeah.
But my whole life I was very, oriented toward relying on my self-esteem was reliant upon what I could do for other people. Achievement, exactly. And so there came a time, there came points in my life. My parents divorced when I was 11. Puberty was really rough. Was a lot of typical things. Nothing out of the ordinary. What is ordinary today?
Yeah. Especially 2025.
Yeah. Nothing. There wasn't anything crazy, but I came to learn, right? But of course, it felt like I was the only one. Growing up, going through those things. And so having that kind of disposition.
How old are you?
I'm 35.
Okay, so so I'm 37, Eric's 36.
7 now.
Oh, old fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, having that sort of disposition, I think I got to a point where the pressure I was putting on myself, the unrealistic expectations, that were just ever present in my mind, were I was done. And then I picked up drugs, and it was
What came first?
Let's see. I started smoking weed with my cousins up in Pennsylvania, and I.
Did you get high the first time?
That's a good question. I think I did, even though I was told I wouldn't.
Yeah.
But I think I did.
Like, oh, he didn't get high.
It's an inhaling thing.
Yeah.
And you smoked cigarettes.
I smoked cigarettes before I smoked weed. So,
you knew how to inhale.
I didn't smoke cigarettes before I smoked weed, but I still think I got high. And the reason why I think so is because I had literally like 5 people coaching my inhales on the...
No, this is how you get high. Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, now hold it. Hold it. Make sure you hold it.
Yep. Does that actually do we know? Does that make a difference?
No, I have no idea. Because
we always used to like hold these hits in until like,
I know.
Until we're
and
just
then you blow
like
it out coughing, like the driest cough you've ever heard.
Like, no, coughing gets you higher, dude. And it's like, is that true? We need somebody.
Yo, yeah, people did actually say that coughing.
Coughing got you higher.
And I had friends who told me that coughing, you wouldn't get high. Like if you coughed, you wouldn't get high. Like it was some superstitious thing.
Eric, Google it. We need some answers. We're gonna continue.
I mean, that's like that sounds more like that red lighter there. That's not a good lighter.
God, that was such bullshit. I never played that.
If you went to different counties, it was different.
Dude, because it was like
white lighter. White lighter over here.
Yeah, because and like the excuse I always heard is like Kurt Cobain had a white lighter when he died, and I was like, what the fuck does that?
I never even heard that one.
Dude, that's what I heard.
Every other one.
That's where like the superstition was around me. I was like,
people.
Who cares?
Yeah, we make up some things. We really do. I'm sure I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I'm sure I had developed some superstitions.
So you're smoking weed with Pennsylvania cousins,
and got back to school after that summer, doing it once, and like all I could think about, but it really wasn't even about the drug. Like I wasn't even attracted to how it made me feel that much. It was attractive to feel different. It was attractive to lay. To be okay with just lying down on the ground doing nothing and staring at the wall.
Yeah.
And to not care. You know, I was so attracted to the feeling of apathy, of
shutting our brains off for a little while. Yep.
And so I couldn't think about anything else. And it took a couple months before I managed to figure out like how to get weed. As a 10th grader, and to find my people who wanted to do it too, and wanted to do it often, right? So I found those people. You're an artsy
type, so I assume they came pretty readily.
Oh, yeah. It was the school I went to was a science and technology magnet, though. So I was in school with like a lot of high achievers, a lot of, I would never,
Yeah.
And when they said never, they meant never, and they held that never, and that was not the case with me.
Good for them.
Yeah.
Good for you, nerds.
Yeah, right. There were a lot of people. I just had to, I was in it with the fellow perfectionists, the goody two shoes group, and I felt comfortable being in that group, but just like I said, came a day where I felt like an imposter because I didn't want to be there anymore, and I was so burnt out. But anyway, I, from there, like I did a lot of that, and then oddly enough, when I was in 11th grade, I was in a physics class, AP physics class, and there's probably a combination of reasons why, but the first quarter why I cared that I got a D. And that, I was like, no, I actually care more about learning this and about my friends and their opinions of me learning this, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
And what it looks like, the optics, of this.
Yep.
I could not have that. So I quit. And that was deleterious to my future thinking. Thank you. Because I'm thinking, I have willpower. And I haven't even spoken about this, but prior to drugs, I was like really eating disordered, like severe anorexia.
Ooh.
And that started when I was 13, really shortly after. I pretty much hit puberty and was like, nope, not doing this.
So what was really like, and I'm not saying it, like, it's gone away, but from...
I'm sorry.
Oh, no. Oh, no. You're good. Like mid-90s to like mid-early 2000s, it was like on all the talk shows, like on 60 Minutes or whatever, is your kid, like what eating disorder is your kid displaying?
Yeah.
And it, like, I don't know, we were just like right at that like crux of just a whole bunch of things. And, you know,
It's
eating
true.
disorders was one of them.
It's true. And also, it's such a secretive thing.
Yeah.
That really finding that, you know, there was anyone else around me that was dealing with it at the age of 13 and 14 was not a thing. Like, I had one friend who, you know, had gone through, and we were both sort of sent to eat lunch with the school counselor every day to make sure we weren't hiding our meals and stuff.
Oh, wow.
I had little notes from my mom.
Was your group called something? Like
My
your
group?
little like your little eating disorder group? Like did you guys have like a name or something?
Yeah, the Breakfast Club.
That's so funny. That's a good question. We should have had one. Like it was two of
funny,
us
too.
that had dealt with eating disorders. The rest of them were cutters. I don't know what we call ourselves.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried that on for size one time. Like I couldn't do it. I used my fingernails.
Oh, that's not
And
good. You need you need a good blade. I
Shut
mean,
up, Eric.
Yeah, I couldn't do all that. So I used my fingernails, and like, yeah, it was totally a cry for attention. It wasn't even a cry for attention. It was I belong, right?
Yeah.
Just checking.
Like, yeah.
Gotta have the stamp of approval, you know?
Yep.
Because like my collarbones sticking through my skin wasn't enough.
Yeah.
Gaunt face and such. So anywho, getting back to it, between that, which looks like a lot of willpower, it looks on the surface, the optics, it's like as the most disciplined person, you know, and I was hearing that all the time. God, how are you so disciplined? So that filled my head with lies, you know, that which I'm not blaming at all, because I mean, really, I still accepted the first step in recovery, in 12-step recovery very quickly. I knew I was an addict at 8, because the way I got addicted to people. I was going around at 8 years old telling people I had an addictive personality. So I really was never mystified, about my level of powerlessness. It was a convenient excuse, you know, to think, no, I got this. I can start and stop whenever I want. The other thing was my mom was in the aftermath of my parents' divorce. My mom was really grappling with like the 25-year relationship she had, her high school sweetheart, you know, leaving, and and then having to raise these 2 children alone, and really being a very emotional being, you know, and having to keep it together, keep it functional. So the way she coped with that was alcohol, and she also had really severe depression issues, you know. So that whole side of the family really dealt with a lot of depression and OCD. But
Who doesn't?
I know.
Look at this wall. There's no OCD here.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So looking back,
Eric.
I really feel for her, but she, you know, kind of gave me an example of what I didn't want. So I never drank.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah. So I also, that was another little illusory sort of like magical thinking. Oh, like I avoided alcohol. I can pick that up and stop that whenever I want, you know, too. So anyway, should I jump?
11th grade, where we? Yeah. Move forward.
Jump out of high school?
Yeah, jump forward.
Pretty much ended high school.
We'll Tarantino this thing.
Okay. Pretty much, I'm good at that because I jump all around. Pretty much ended high school, you know, with really high GPA. And, you know, I think in senior year, I had like a 4.3. I took a ton of APs. I was really fueled by that achievement. And yet, what did I do with it? Okay. I decided I wanted to go to Los Angeles to become an actress. So you don't really need a GPA for that.
No. Shit, no.
I do think
Jason Bateman never even graduated high school.
True. And there's plenty of others too.
Yeah.
I mean, but yeah, I guess truth be told, I don't think I would have gone out, I don't think I would have been able to do that. I wouldn't have been able to go out and actually make that jump to move across country and like pursue this dream. Had it not been for a school has accepted me, I've been invited. I'm very much like that, like in general, still today. I find that to be true. If you don't invite me, even like, say I'm in a, like at a party.
You're not a party crasher?
No. And like,
I will.
I will if I'm with someone. If I'm with someone else and we're doing it together.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like I can be a thought leader, but my body will not be the first to enter that room.
Okay.
I have a lot of fear, you know?
Yeah.
I'm very filled with fear. But anyway, so I get out there and I got accepted to LMU and Loyola Marymount University.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They're famous for a gentleman who unfortunately passed away of a heart defect happening. Like it was I think it was an aortic aneurysm or mitral valve prolapse or something that happened while he was playing on their basketball team.
Oh,
like back in the early 90s.
Yeah.
That's like the thing that people know about that school.
Okay.
So I got there and it was celebrities' children everywhere.
Yeah.
And it was Willie Nelson's son. And I'm not going to name names because he was a nice person.
Yeah.
People could figure it out though. Willie Nelson's son, and it was an actress on the OC's sister, and it was like a variety of people.
Rad.
People were going, you know, every weekend, like rock climbing with the Owen Wilson and Luke Wilson, and like going to Disneyland every weekend because they could.
Yeah,
they had money.
Yeah.
I could not afford to live this way.
Yeah.
Like this was some fast living. This was like some.
It's LA.
Yeah. And I got out there, never felt more alone, you know? Like.
Oh, yeah.
That little girl who, you know.
Yeah, people think like LA, it's like, oh, it's the place of dreams. It's like, no, that's where dreams go to die.
No, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
I know. And that's the crazy thing is, what I've long joked, not really joked, is my Bible is Scar Tissue by Anthony Kiedis. I read that when I was 14.
Nice.
And unfortunately, instead of being able to pick up on how recovery oriented that book really is, I instead looked at it as a manual for like, you need to do this to feel grateful for your life. So there was this...
How to turn like sickness into success.
Not even like, yes, but not even success in a, you know, in a
tangible sense.
Yeah, not in a career sense or anything like that. I looked at it as I had this weird intuition that I needed to nearly die from a very young age in order to feel grateful that I was lacking gratitude. Yeah. Like I didn't care.
No, I hear what you're saying.
And like nothing was good enough. I had that sense so young.
Wow, now I'm thinking about some shit.
Yeah, I remember being 8 and staring up at the sky and saying to my neighbor, my best friend at the time, that like, I don't think my life will mean anything if I'm not famous. Like I need literally the entire world to validate my existence. And that, you know, we sort of like had these really real conversations at 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, staring at the sky where we're saying, yeah, I don't think that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's just how we are.
Yeah.
You know? So I found that book and that's what it, you know, it really reaffirmed to me that I needed to nearly die, or else I was not going to value my life. And so, yeah, going out there, it was where dreams go to die, or it is. And I think that was an important step because I went out there, never felt more alone, was not at all incubated by like anything I'd known. And then the insecurity of, I'm not just not the skinniest person where I was before.
Yeah.
Now I'm also, you know,
not the richest either.
And no one cares if I'm the smartest. Like that's not what we're doing here.
Yep.
I'm not the richest. I'm not the skinniest. I don't have the most money. Well, I just said that. I don't have like the most reputation. I don't have connections whatsoever. I cannot get up on the stage and entertain. I don't have the most charisma in the room. Like, wow, you know, it was like every possible insecurity one could feel with the motivations that I had. And it was like the first few weeks I was literally just rollerblading every day to Santa Monica Pier and interviewing homeless people.
Oh, that's dope.
Like I literally felt
dope.
Yeah. They were, you know, the homeless people on Santa Monica Pier.
They're fucking some real people, man.
It was talking to some real people, and I was in my head. I thought I was doing a journalism, you know, adventure. I was like writing their stories down. Not like I was ever, I shouldn't say it that way, but I felt like a journalist.
Yeah.
Like I felt like I was giving their life meaning, you know. But I think what it was they were the least intimidating people, you know, around me. And I felt like I could maybe make friends here better than I could make friends 2 miles up the road. So at the time, I was also back into like, and for all of senior year, I was severely eating disordered again. I was very underweight and was not eating much at all, was exercising every day, like a lot. And it was a few weeks, maybe a few months. No, it was less than a month when my roommate came home with some cocaine. And I was like, oh, no thanks, because I knew that was going to be the end. I'm so sorry. I meant to turn that on silent. I knew that would be the end. And so she offers it to me 5 more times. And are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? And I finally was like, wow. I don't even have a chance to turn it on silent. Like, they just keep calling. So I'm just going to turn my phone off. But yeah, I got offered that and I finally took it. And then we, things sort of, you know, never ended. Until they really ended.
Yeah.
I was habitual from there. It was a rough year.
Yeah.
And it was learning about, you know, withdrawal isn't really a thing with cocaine, but it is when you've been up for days.
It does. There's a few days that don't feel great.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and your nose has to recover if you're doing it that way.
There's a body recovery more than like a psychological one.
Yeah. And I mean, and then there would be those days where if anybody has ever been in that position, then you know, like being awake at 6 a.m, 7 a.m, 8, 9, 10, and seeing people, like you're outside smoking, chain smoking, because you're on cocaine.
Oh, yeah.
And people are getting up and going to their classes.
Yeah, being productive, yeah.
And it is the most, like, dehumanizing.
I think it's the birds.
Yo, the birds.
It's the birds. It's fuck those
birds.
So many people have said that.
It's the birds.
Like, okay, that is an excellent idea. Can we talk about that for a second? Like the birds, like the Alfred Hitchcock film.
Yes.
We need to make that movie, but for crackhead, like the crackhead experience, and call it The Birds.
Oh my God.
Do you know what I mean?
Actually genius.
Thank you.
Yes, that is.
It was a collaborative.
Genius.
That was a collaborative idea.
Eric,
we should
get an EP credit on that.
Yeah.
I like that.
We need to make that movie because it would be like a comedic short, but we could make it horror.
Shut the fuck up.
Oh my God, I know. It would be so good. And they would be like, maybe even throw in like some LSD, and then the person is hallucinating that they are being attacked by the birds.
Yes.
Speaking of those, I've never done hallucinogens.
Really?
That's how much of a control freak I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I was offered a few times, not a lot. I feel like maybe if I had been offered it, you know, enough times, I might have finally said, okay.
Yeah.
But that's the other reason why alcohol turned me off. Like anything that was, I'm not obliterated to the point of like, don't care, apathy, numb, like heroin eventually became for me. Mm-hmm. Or I'm not fully 100% in control of everything I do. Mm-hmm. Like stimulants will do.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't into. I just wasn't. You know, I was definitely not. The term gets thrown around of like a garbage disposal addict garbage can addict. Yeah, like I was the pickiest.
I was. I was
Were
like,
you?
what will this do? Okay, fuck it.
I like cocktails.
Yeah, cocktails were great. You just would just put it in you, whatever.
I did one time have some it was something out of a movie, a scene out of a movie where I had one addict on one arm loading up one rig
Yeah.
with cocaine, and the other arm was being loaded up with heroin.
Whoa,
and then we pushed at the same time.
Whoa.
Yeah, and it was like this experiment
crazy.
orchestrated by 5 different people involved.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow, that was
That
the
is
most
a movie.
productive, quote unquote.
How has that not been in a movie scene?
I know,
That's
right?
a lot of people to use with too. 5?
Oh yeah, that's another thing. I really wasn't a loner. Like I was a very social heroin addict.
That's
like
very
an
social.
odd junkie.
Yeah.
Really odd junkie. So moving into that, I get kicked out of this school. I don't think we really have time for me to go into that story, but essentially my roommate and I turned on each other. It was really ugly. It was really paranoid. It was a lot of dealing with campus police and being interrogated. Like,
of course.
Like going, if I had ever seen Law and Order prior to then, I would have been like, maybe had any ideas to what was coming next. This was so brand new to me.
Yeah.
I was the most naive person and got myself not locked up, but kicked out. So anyway, I get back to Maryland and I'm really demoralized, and shamed. And I wrote, that being said, I still felt like I have a real big injustice sensitivity. Okay. So it's not that I didn't then also get more cocaine when I got here and spend like 30 pages writing an essay to the school.
What was better, East Coast cocaine or West Coast cocaine?
East Coast.
So it changed. I would say West Coast was originally better than what I was finding. And then I eventually found like a couple years later and I was with some people that were getting like
the really good shit.
Yeah, and I also learned how to purify it, so...
Me too!
Yeah.
Thank you! Yes! I thought I was the only one.
No. Yeah, so,
Did you ever do crack?
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay, I didn't.
For 2 years.
See, I didn't. I was such a snooty motherfucker. I was like, no, I'm smoking cocaine.
It is good. I mean,
I was like, I'm not smoking crack.
I never felt
There's
dirtier.
no baking soda in this.
Right.
There's never a moment you feel dirtier than when you're resin out a crack pipe.
Dude, and I fucking knew that.
True.
And I
there's
fucking
no
knew that.
high better than a rezzed out
It's
crack
so
pipe.
true.
I had seen people smoke crack, and I was like, that doesn't look attractive.
A rezzed out
You're
crack
a peasant.
pipe is like a specialty,
So-
dude. That's like a special niche.
Yeah. The resin crack. Oh my god.
Resin
and
crack,
they
it's
called
such a
it
thing.
they called it dookie crack. And it was so gross.
But it was so good.
Yeah, it was
in a weird way. Oh.
One of my favorite
'Cause it
band
was so
names
brown.
is actually Leftover Crack.
Oh wow.
Great band name.
Leftover-
Great band name.
That is a good
Doesn't
name.
exist.
It's a-
There is no Leftover
No,
Crack.
there never is. There never is.
It's such a ridiculous band name, but
It
it's
is a good band name.
It's a great
Yeah,
band name.
it is a great band name.
Okay, so you're here.
I get back here. I use coke a little bit more, and then eventually, not long after I got back, I was like living in my car. By the way, this whole summer, because I didn't want to be under my parents' authority, and they were like very concerned, and I was like,
You're like, I'm fine.
I'm on a path. Like I had this plan, like this 5-year plan that I developed, acting as though like plausible but untrue reasons for my behavior, quote unquote, is like I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to nearly die so that I can live. And that's
the
what's
title,
wild.
Eric.
Yeah.
I'm gonna nearly die so I can live.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what a title! That's a great title.
I'm glad.
We whatever somebody says, we like it just randomly has to be organic, and like some of the titles have been amazing. Like one person, their title was "I let my degree dissolve under my tongue." I was like, oh, that's a great title.
Damn, that's awesome.
Yeah, there's great titles.
Anything that is like a mic drop type of one-liner or a metaphor, like better if you combine the two, like that one.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's great.
Yeah, my sponsors for years ago was he got a drug use merit badge.
Oh yeah, yep,
It's fucking great. Anyway,
it's true. That's like an opposite day.
so you had to die so you could live.
Right. So like I was living in my car, and eventually I came up with this idea that cocaine got me kicked out of school, so I gotta
Cocaine's the
use
problem.
it's heroin time.
Yeah. Write a blues album.
I know, yeah. And the other thing was my best friend from when we were 7 and 8 had started using heroin, and if she was in her senior year that whole year, and back home in Maryland, and like I'm sure she felt really abandoned, and there was a lot there. So anyway, I had of course, while I was using Coke and my life's going just fine, wink, wink.
Yeah.
I'm like feeding things to her mom, like, I'm really concerned about such and such, and I just got pictures of the track marks on her arms in English class, and so anyway, I get her put in rehab, and that was the other motivation, was like, you can't beat them, join them, and like this looks like fun, and I want my best friend back. So again, very pro-social as an addict. It was always about making friends and keeping friends. And so that's what I was doing. I was using heroin, and there's a lot that went into that. I was, again, like living in my car for quite a while, but it wasn't very long. It was maybe 2 or 3 months that my dad found out, and like I said, threw me in rehab in my first one. Didn't really stick. I did an IOP. I was put on MAT, which at that time was a really wacky thing. Like, they did not know what they were doing. I had only been using heroin for a couple of months, didn't really even have a real habit. I'm not even sure I would have gone through much withdrawal. And they had me on 34 milligrams of Suboxone a day.
Jesus.
34.
That's high.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's studies.
Am I wrong,
It's
Eric,
supposed to only be 24, because, like...
Yeah.
Beyond 24, I don't think it works, really.
Well, and in fact, when I was doing my bachelor's in psych, I did a study, or not a study, but I did some research, and there was a study that shows that, I don't remember what the half-life time was, so I'm not sure if this was speaking daily, but at least, probably for 12 hours, I don't think they were talking about less than 12 hours, that 8 milligrams is the ceiling as far as, like, once you're doing more than 8 milligrams within, now don't quote me on that. But, which is exactly what we're doing. But
we're
someone can fact check me. Who's listening. But so that was really wild. And yet, because of my, like, not having any kind of a tolerance, I was zonked. Like, I don't even remember being there. Sure. I do in little flashes, but mostly I was higher in that rehab than I'd ever been outside. So then I was in a IOP, and it turns out, like, so I'm a weirdo, and I might end up saying more about that, but like what I'm actually talking about. But I met someone, and
in rehab?
Yeah,
what?
yeah.
That's so original.
Yeah, I know. We're sitting in IOP, and like my pheromones were apparently just, I don't do that. Like, I don't really, that's what I was getting at. I'm like, I'm on the ACE spectrum. So I have a really low affinity for like attraction to people. And but Suboxone really heightened, like, I don't know. It's like, apparently without opiates, maybe that's how I am. And then with opiates, it maybe makes me act a little bit more quote unquote normal. Like, I literally made that guy my boyfriend, and I had never in my life done such a thing, let alone had the confidence to do such a thing. But so we started dating, and it wasn't very long before he picked me up one day and was like, I really want to get high. And so we got high. And then he went to the Air Force, and
okay, I mean, the Air Force.
Because that was the only thing that he felt like he was a lost cause, and that the only way he was going to be right for society was to get institutionalized, to get militarized, and
that's the story for millions of men.
I know,
men every generation.
And
like, I'm just straighten out my life in the military.
Exactly, and no surprise, he was writing me letters every day during basic training. And telling me about this drug addict he met and this drug addict he met. Yeah, and there's a code language, of course, that he wrote.
Sure, yeah, I'm sure there is.
But so that eventually, didn't work out, and he dumped me via text message. By the way,
dick.
Yeah, don't do that, people. It's really brutal.
I've been that dick, so I feel
Have
you?
Yeah, totally. Shots fired. Okay. My apologies.
No, totally. I 100% should be called out for that.
Not cool.
I also, back when I was, 13 or 14, broke up with a girl on AIM.
Nah.
Yeah, on AOL Instant Messenger. Like, yeah. And I left it. She had her BRB screen up.
Yes.
And I just typed it up so cowardly. I was like, yeah, by the time you read this, we're not going to be boyfriend or girlfriend anymore.
Oh my God.
So she came back from her
say it again, Aaron.
G2G.
That was so mean.
Her GTG, she came back and she was like, oh my God. And then I'm just inundated with diddling, 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 diddling.
Oh my God. Do you know, see, this is the kind of weirdo I am. You just said GTG. And do you know, like, I would sit on AIM and torment over whether or not, are you supposed to say GTG or G2G?
Yeah, it was.
I think they were
interchangeable. I think they were fine.
They totally were, but I had no concept of that. It was always like very black and white, right or wrong, you know? Mm-hmm. Anyway, but was anyone else in the chat rooms all the time? I was always in those chat rooms acting like I was 25. Just like getting along with a bunch of people who were in their 20s. Like I was some bait for it. Like things could have gone so. I was so naive too. Yeah, things could have gone so wrong.
You were impostoring as a catfish.
I know. I was doing the opposite. It was wild. Yeah. So anyway, back to what I was talking about. Like that ended. He broke it off in a text message. I was threatening to drive down to Florida. Right. Yeah. Like there was no leaving DC at that point. I was totally, at that point I'd spent the last months, I'm
all zooted on Suboxone. I had yours, no quitting me.
Right. And and he was, oh man. So I was panhandling every day. Like I was back on heroin. I was lying about it to him, lying about it to all kinds of people, but I still had my group, other people that we would panhandle every day. We would get together, still very pro-social. I was working for the FDA.
What?
Yeah, as a food prep handler person for scientific studies, dietitian studies.
That's dope.
Yeah, it was good pay, but
oh, sure.
Yeah, then the day that I was maybe the 15th day that I was not only late with some crazy half-assed excuse about it, my tire, but there were days that was quite real. And then nodding out all over the place. I was I was let go. But yeah, so anywho, I eventually he broke up with me, and by that time I was already in DC, and I was like resident in the crack houses, and I had my go-to places, and I had basically been sort of given to a pimp. Or like a fake one. Okay. I had a few, and not a single one of them actually knew what they were doing.
Okay.
They were all like aspiring pimps, which is a fascinating concept.
An aspiring pimp.
Yeah, like they
never.
That's
a great band name. Aspiring Pimps.
And that's a good skit.
That's a shitty band name right there, but it's awesome.
True.
We're the Aspiring Pimps. Thanks for coming out.
Yo. God, in this day and age, I feel like people would jump all over that and it would be sad. But back in the 90s, that probably would have flown.
Oh, in the 90s,
awesome.
it would have been a great band.
Yeah, people would have it on their bumper stickers.
Where are you going? We're going to see the Aspiring Pimps.
Yeah.
Who's opening? The Shitty Beatles.
Yeah, the Shitty Beatles. Yeah, so there was that. And then the next 2.5 years was like a lot of that, just jumping crack houses. And the term shooting gallery that I'm not sure anyone really uses anymore. Yeah. This is basically just a trap house where there is no crack, and it's a majority of just like people knotted out on heroin.
The first time I heard that in a meeting, because it wasn't like my experience, like I didn't have the experience, like I thought of like a carnival, like shoot.
Yeah,
like, a shooting gallery.
And I'm pretty sure that's what it's referencing.
Yeah, I'm like, what? I was like, that doesn't. And then I was like, oh, shooting heroin gallery. Yeah. Oh, that seems terrible.
I know, right? And it's like crack house. There is no reference there. Like we're not being metaphorical. It's just a house.
It's just a house,
crack
and
in
there
it.
are crack. Yeah, there are crackheads in there.
Yeah,
and a crack house.
Yep. And then shooting gallery. It's like, oh, we're trying to be slick here.
Yeah. Like, we're going down to the shooting gallery. Oh.
And then there were like the term like abandonmenium.
Oh yeah.
Or whatever. Yeah. Mm-hmm. A lot of terms like that. Mm-hmm. So I was always being singled out as like, I stuck out like sore thumb because
I was just about to say
how I appear. I have blonde hair. Mm-hmm. At the time, I think I even dyed it black to try and stick out less. But I,
still super white girl in this, in
super
this
white
scene.
Girl. Like, and I would show up, and I'm 20, at the time.
Yeah.
And I'd show
up.
You're
a fucking narc is what you are.
Exactly. And if it wasn't that, then they were tickled and amused by the quirk of mine, which is that I speak very, like astutely or whatever. I pronunciate everything.
Yeah.
And I was always being picked on for that.
Of course.
Which...
Yes, you are not of the street.
Yeah, and okay, so I'm really glad you said that, because essentially, let's just jump to, not the next time, no, it was the next time I went to rehab. My dad kidnapped me. He had been like pounding the pavement, I found out, because I overdosed for the first time. He'd been pounding the pavement trying to find me for months. Like, he would get off of work down the street in Chevy Chase and go searching around Northwest, asking people if they'd seen me and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That was really hard to hear, especially like amidst an overdose. When you're in the ambulance and you've just been carried out, you're sopping wet because you were thrown into a bath of ice by like people, the one person in the crack house who was not nodded out. Yeah. And you're in the ambulance, and the guy that is treating you, for this overdose, and I'm not sure, they never told me if I was Narcan, but I must have been. Mm-hmm. He tells me, hey, I know your dad. Wow.
What? Yeah.
Wow. Like, there were so many instances in which, you sort of like, whether it's during withdrawal or post overdose or, post abuse, when you can wake up or just come to and be so demoralized.
Oh, yeah.
And just be like having that sobering moment of clarity that, and what you do with it is where you go from there. But that was a really brutal one, I had been able to, out of sight, out of mind. Like, my parents are just living their lives. I'm doing them a favor by disappearing the way that I do, because that's my thing. Like, I'm pro-social as an addict.
Yeah.
In that way. But if you're not using, or you're gonna, try to impede me, I'm definitely the classic, like, dip out. There's no, like, I had friends that would literally return home to their parents' home where they lived and, like, just get ragged on, like, what are you doing with your life? And that and they would put up with it. No, not with me.
No, fuck no.
That's why, those friends of mine are on methadone and are still, either using or on methadone all these years later. I'm glad that, like, I was the kind of addict to just go balls to the wall, absolutely have no sense of, like, street sense, no common sense, like, no street smarts, and to be super naive. And I absolutely nearly accomplished what I had set out to do, which was to nearly die. So that happened, and it was not long after that moment when my dad ended up setting up a sting operation.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah. So this girl, I'm going to use her first name, Amanda. I don't know if she's still alive. I regularly check on some of these people. Yeah. And a lot of them are dead. But this girl, Amanda, and this guy named Mark, they had sort of trained me. They were, both white, suburban, middle class, raised in the same way as me. And they were, they had street smarts, they had common sense, and they could survive out here. And they sort of trained me into, selling my body and, like, being a little more savvy with people and stuff like that. But I guess it came a time when they realized, like, I'm not cut out for it. And they worked with my dad to, I was convinced that there was a job we were going to do, which was a gentleman that we were going to meet. And it was going to be at at the Ritz-Carlton, which I'd done a Ritz-Carlton job before. Wow. So I was not, that was not a tip-off. That wasn't a red flag. Yeah. And also, I just believed everything that everyone told me. So there was not a single inkling that I was being lied to.
Go meet the guy around the corner. Okay.
Yeah. So while Amanda's smoking crack all day long and I'm in withdrawal, she just keeps telling me, like, come on, we're gonna make some money tonight, and then you'll get better, and blah blah blah. So we get in the car, we're driving up Randolph Street, Northwest, and we get to there's a Wendy's where Randolph and Georgia hit.
I know exactly where that is. Yeah.
And that Wendy's, we suddenly pull in. There was no like foreshadowing that we were going to stop at Wendy's for any reason.
Yeah. So did we want a Frosty? No.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We turn into Wendy's, and then without the two of them having a conversation, like I remember this so vividly, without the two of them having a conversation about it, Amanda's just like, well, I wanted a Frosty, and Mark is driving. And I'm like, well, how did he know that? Y'all didn't have this conversation.
Yeah.
She wants a Frosty. Okay, so we are driving. You know how that drive-through wraps around the building? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're going around slowly, and then suddenly Mark stops on top of the speed bump, one of these speed bumps, and stops there on top of a speed bump. Mm-hmm. And it occurs to me, like, who does this?
Yes.
Nobody stops dead in the middle of there's more room to go before you get to the end of the line. Mm-hmm. I look to the right and I see my dad. Mm-hmm. I didn't even recognize him at first. It was kind of like twilight, so there was that. And but he also had very visibly put on some weight, and I'm sure that had to do with the stress of his firstborn being unknowingly alive or dead, you know? Mm-hmm. So he, all day, I forgot to mention this, but all day, I had overheard phone calls Amanda was having with him, who was my dad. And all this time I'm being told it's a John coming from West Virginia, which is where my dad lived, to meet us at the Ritz-Carlton. But that didn't tip me off. The speed bump tipped me off. The lack of conversation around a Frosty tipped me off.
Yeah.
Okay, but not that. Because it's just the furthest thing I could have imagined that my dad would sting operation, collaborate with
these street urchins.
Yes, these street urchins. Another good term. To get me in rehab.
Eric, that can be our punk band name. We're the Street Urchins.
The Street Urchins. That
is a good name.
That is a great name.
That can go for all ages. Yeah.
Yeah. So he puts me in rehab. And again, and not before. So he grabs me that day, and then the next day it was the Snowmageddon. 2010.
Yes.
All right. Well, yes. I hitchhiked.
I was sleeping in a Pontiac Vibe during that.
Nice.
Yeah. Not nice.
No, but
wait, let me divert.
At least you had a car.
Yes. So I'm in a Pontiac Vibe in Howard County, doing drugs all by myself. And, Snowmageddon happens, and a Pontiac Vibe is, not an all-terrain vehicle.
Yeah.
So eventually I just had to pull over in a neighborhood. Yeah. And Snowmageddon, anybody who's listening, was feet of snow. Like multiple feet of snow. So I'm in this car buried in snow for, I don't know, a couple days. Yeah. And I had some pretzels and water and drugs. So I was like, I'm okay. And I've been living in a car. So I'm like, this is my hotel room. I actually have some privacy. I'm like, okay.
Your hotel room.
I survive, and then after a certain amount of time, a plow goes by, and all the fucking snow falls off like the driver's side of and light comes pouring in. I'm like, fuck, I guess I have to get out. So I get out of the car, and there's a person across the street shoveling their driveway, and they're like, oh my God, were you in there? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, are you okay? How long have you been in there? I'm like, oh, no, I'm fine. And I'm like just using my arm to just get my car out as fast as because I'm freaking out this fucking normie in the middle of it.
Right.
And I'm just like, I gotta get out of here. He was like, do you need some food or water? Let me call some. I'm like, I'm fine. And I just drive away.
What time of day was that?
It was like in the morning.
Yeah. That's what what I was imagining. Like they're just like out there shoveling their driveway.
And then they just see somebody crawl out of a car. And this dude was freaked out. He's like, are you sure you're okay? I'm like, how long have you been in there? No. I was like, don't worry about me. I'm totally cool. Everything's fine.
We self-destructives are so minimizing about our own experiences. Yeah. We're just like,
I could have suffocated. Yeah. Like, I don't know how I had oxygen in that vehicle, but I did.
Not to mention if you had been running the engine just like on it, like I would have been liable to have done that and accidentally died.
I did know. For you. I did know that. I was like, I will die because actually that's how my uncle killed himself was with CO2 from a car.
So sorry.
So I knew that. I was like, I can't run the vehicle at all. And
damn, that's crazy.
So Snowmageddon.
Right. So my dad picks me up. We go to a hospital because I'm such a no pain tolerance, can't stand. Like I one time was withdrawing at his house.
Like 90 pounds soaking wet at the time, too.
Totally. Yeah. And one time I was withdrawing at his house and I asked him to knock me out with a hammer. I was like, Dad, it's the only way I'll endure this. I'm meanwhile drinking mouthwash, and I don't even do alcohol. I hate alcohol. So anyway, this time he takes me to a hospital. They give me they give me a benzo prescription, which he's gonna hold, of course, but it's just so I can last the weekend for Monday, because
like
this was a Friday
or something.
Yeah, it was a Xanax. And so I get to his house and, he's dosing it out to me. And then the next day he's taking a nap and I swiped it from his room and booked it because I decided I was going to hitchhike. And I still to this day don't watch the weather. Like I have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Had no concept that a blizzard was coming, nothing at all. Mm-hmm. So I'm walking down the road and like a literal cop car in West Virginia stops me. And we're talking like Martinsburg area.
Yeah.
Stops me and asks for my license and asks why I'm walking when there's a blizzard coming.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I have to get to the train station. Made up some lie. I was a lot better at fibbing than I'd gotten okay at it. Yeah. Panhandling will do that.
Yeah, what train station? You're in the middle of nowhere, bitch.
Yeah. Granted, the Martinsburg train station, I think I must have walked like 2 miles to get there. And I get there, and then there's no trains running, of course.
No.
So then I find a guy in a parking lot and connive him into driving me to Shady Grove Metro Station in Gaithersburg, all the way from Martinsburg, West Virginia, in a blizzard.
That's a bop. Yeah.
Yep. And
how'd you convince that?
Oh, solicitation. Yep. But here's the thing. Dude was not feeling it. He was not, like, I guess he felt too bad for me. Oh, God. He literally just drove me anyway and then gave me $30 and nothing. Like, I didn't have to.
Oh, he did feel bad for you.
He really did. So, and I
have
did
you ever had the premonition that that guy doesn't exist and, like, he might have been like an angel?
Oh, shit. If that's the case, then there are quite a few others in my, end of my road.
Every once in a while, like, I've looked back at, like, certain interactions I've had with people that were just incredibly benevolent, like, because you look at humans every day and you're like, these people are garbage. But then every once in a while, something incredibly benevolent just like comes into your life and you're like, how did that happen?
I was panhandling.
And like, I'm like, what was that?
One time I was panhandling and I met Dave Chappelle and he wouldn't even give me $1 at Union Station. This is a real true story.
I
Dave
believe
Chappelle.
That 100%.
He told me I was pretty. Huh. Wouldn't give me I said, I know who you are. And he was like, you're pretty. No. Mm-hmm. Anyway, but another guy gave me a $100 bill. So there were plenty of, but the thing about this guy that gave me the $30, drove me to Shady Grove is he was conned. Like he wasn't, really helping. Yeah. He was not harming. He didn't know what he was doing. Yeah. He believed my lie, just as I would because I'm naive as hell. But no, I do have one of those. Mm-hmm. It was at the actual end. Wow. There was a girl. I'm like that's where I find. Yeah, let's get to that. So anyway, I'm in New York at this point. Okay. Yeah, I've gotten out of that rehab, failed at another one, so on and so forth. I'm in New York, and it was because me and two other people had some pipe dreams that we were going to go to the Big Apple and sling drugs and make a lot of money, and I was going to like be a famous escort, Yeah,
we'll make Requiem for a Dream a success.
Yes, yeah. And they were the main guy was really he was abusive, and then the other guy, it turned out I found out later, was actually an informant for the police. Whoa. He smoked more crack than he breathed air, and I'm not kidding.
I think like. If you ever saw the True Detective series, if you ever saw True Detective, like the Matthew McConaughey character who was like undercover forever, I feel like that's how those cops are. They're just like, I can do all drugs.
Oh yeah,
so I'm gonna do all drugs.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna arrest you.
I mean, yeah. If you know that you have like immunity, why would you not?
Why would you not?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this guy, and I still to this day think back, but I remember when I first found out some months later when I'm clean, I found out, it turns out Matt was an informant, by the way. And I was like,
Oh, that makes sense.
It made sense the last 12 hours of my using, because I can't even tell you. Couldn't even try to describe this. I've tried before, and it is such a wild, delusional, like, I don't understand what was going on. But the bottom line is that we're in this hotel that morning. They had lost the keys because they used heavily.
Yeah.
We were not savvy people.
No.
We were not capable of being savvy. Best customer, you know what I mean, type of thing. And the guy, he did brutally rape me.
Oh.
And sorry, but it's what it was.
Whether the police officer or the other guy?
No, the other guy. And that being said, the night before, or like a couple hours before that, so that's important to share, because I think it was like that last dehumanizing, like total absence of spirit piece for me. But a couple hours before that, this guy, Matt, the informant, he had met this girl in an elevator in this hotel. It was a Days Inn in Manhattan. Mm-hmm. And this girl comes to the room, and they're using in the bathroom. Mm-hmm. And I'm being dosed with methadone pills. Mm-hmm. Now, meanwhile, for 3 months, my arm has not worked at all, because it had I got like a nerve palsy from having my arm slumped over a chair. Literally had read the Dave Mustaine autobiography, and then it literally happened. Wait. It was like I read the Dave Mustaine autobiography, like actually went to a mall like a functioning person and bought the book.
Yeah. Wait, you had Saturday Night Palsy?
Yes.
Yeah. That's what my wife, when like the last night we used heroin together, she fell asleep weird, and she had Saturday Night Palsy for like months.
Yes.
And it was the most annoying fucking thing.
Yeah, you just have this dead arm.
Just dead arm.
It totally trashed my business, my sole proprietorship. Okay, my off papers sole proprietorship, because I ended up in a position where I literally couldn't do the functions that one might need to do, and was ripping people off, and then my reputation
that is the most
ruined.
eloquent way you could have put that.
Thank you. I'm not going to name drop the website in which reviews of escorts are described, but I can tell you that I still can go on there, and it still says ripoff beside my name.
That
we're talking 15 years ago.
I did not even know that was a thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And previously, I was like highly rated.
We're going to talk about that off air.
No, we were talking about this a little bit earlier about like the legitimacy of like escorts compared to like. Just like how the laws need to change.
Compared to the aspiring pimps?
Like, well, it's weird that like...
That's a callback, Eric. You're welcome.
Weird. The aspiring pimp. It's weird that you can have sex on camera for money.
We were talking about this.
But you can't have sex off camera for money. It's like, that's like... What?
Dude, George Carlin talked about that 30 years ago. He was like, selling is legal, fucking is legal. Why isn't selling fucking legal?
Well, you know what's fucking weird, too, is like, you can like grow poppy seeds, but you can't... Don't scar them.
You can't. Yeah, you can't have heroin.
It's gonna be, you
can't have opium.
But we grow them everywhere.
Yeah, but you can have poppy flowers. We put them on our
fucking bagels. Like, just the logic here doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, no, and I can't stand anything that diverts from logic. So I completely agree with you. Like, I know that is a little bit of like a black and white thinking, but like, you cannot have your cake and eat it too. Like, they can't be divergence, from the logic.
So anyway, you have a negative score.
You have a negative
review
rating.
on your Yahoo.
You're ruined. Like, I was getting
your
12.
Meow beans are like way low.
Yes, like I was doing very well. Like, I was turning down most business.
No stars, would not recommend.
Yes, and then suddenly I'm
that's
rip-off.
Terrible.
No, but it was a good thing, right?
Yeah.
In the end, it was a good thing. And that was why I wanted to share that, is because like quite literally. Needed that to happen so that there was nothing to come back to. You feel me? Oh. Now that's part of it, but 3 months before as well, I was also in the midst of redeveloping the pneumonia that had stolen my hearing the year before that. So jumping back a little bit.
Okay, so that's how it happened.
Yeah, so I was
pneumonia?
Yeah, the previous year. I don't know if it actually was.
How did that happen?
I don't know, because I've asked this many times of medical practitioners, like, can pneumonia take your hearing? Well, theoretically, if there was simultaneously an ear infection, what have you, I can tell you this: I didn't have symptoms of an ear infection. Like, I didn't have clogging eustachian tubes, and I have had that my whole life.
Dude,
so
that's what I just dealt with for the last 2 months. It sucked.
Yeah, it sucks. I have it right now.
My hearing is just now coming back.
Right.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, I'm glad. That's really good.
Yeah.
This was, I don't actually know if the pneumonia caused it. In fact, now I've been told that I may need to go determine if I have neurofibromatosis type 2. Doesn't matter, but basically acoustic neuroma, like in my head.
Yeah.
And that might have been what happened. Either way, I'm smoking crack. And then suddenly it sounded like my ear was inside of a conch shell. And I put an earbud in it as soon as I could find one and figured out that it was gone. I was told in 2016, like 5 years clean, that if I had gone to a hospital, they could have steroided me up and probably saved the ear, but that's only if it wasn't an acoustic neuroma.
Yeah.
So anyway, they call my right ear, it's clinically known as a dead ear.
Yep.
The nerve died.
Yeah.
So it's, So that happened. And then a year later, I'm having pneumonia again, but y'all know this, like on opiates, you don't have a cough.
Yeah, no, you're not sick.
You're not coughing. The only time when I was aware of just how sick I was those moments of being in withdrawal, which sometimes were stretches of hours, and they were completely intolerable. It was the worst withdrawal because you're literally withdrawing.
Yeah, so you don't know if you're actually sick.
No, until those times when you're withdrawing, so you feel awful, like the most awful you've ever felt.
Yeah, you could have the worst virus or bacteria in you, and you wouldn't know it.
Right.
Yeah.
But then when you're in withdrawal, add to that coughing is suddenly coming, and you are like your rib cage feels like it's going to explode, like the pain, the pressure inside your rib cage.
Yeah.
So I was developing what's called an empyema without knowing it. So back to New York. This woman is in this hotel room with this guy, and she literally is the flooziest.
That was a crazy detour.
Booziest, jumping back. So she is the flooziest, booziest, she's here to have fun type of girl. I swear to God, what was happening in that bathroom did not sound like fun, but then they may have just been super kinky. She, and there was no kink shaming around me.
No.
None whatsoever, okay?
I've been there.
There's none within me, none on the outside. So point is, she comes out of the bathroom and her face drops. Like she finally realized that I existed. Now I'm meanwhile overdosing on methadone without knowing it because I'd never taken methadone pills, and it's a very slow climb. Oh. Wow. So I'm like in this bed and I have a fever. It was like 105. I don't know how we got a thermometer, but we did. And then her face drops, like goes ghost white. Like suddenly she's no longer drunk nor high on crack. She's sobered, instantaneously looking at me in this bed, comes over to me and starts asking me what's going on, and I look like I'm dying.
Yeah.
She says, I'm from Utah and I didn't know why I was even here. Like I came here on some whim with some girls and now I know why I'm here. I'm literally here to be your guardian angel, like to save your life.
Say that?
Yep.
Whoa.
She said it.
Wait, the chick that was just fucking in the bathroom?
Yeah. Yep. Like it was crazy. Anyway, so she is the most obnoxious for the next 3 hours. She's like, pestering doesn't even cut it as a word. Like, just over and over again, begging me to let her take me to the hospital. At one point, I kicked her. So if you hear me, I'm super sorry. I love you. You saved my life. I did eventually go, but not by her hand. It was an important part though, because the next day I'm like mid overdose finally, like all these, I don't understand how methadone pills work, but apparently you can take them 24 hours beforehand and then overdose. So I'm in
their half-life is like super fucking long.
And that's what it is. Yeah. And they build, you know? So then next day, long story short, because it could be a long story, but I'm in this LaGuardia airport panhandling because I have not eaten in days. Yeah. And I'm trying to run from these two individuals who I've determined are the least safe people I could be around.
Yeah.
Because again, what happened to me by that the one guy. So, and then meanwhile, the other guy's having a total paranoid delusion in his smoking more crack than breathing air. Yeah. While being an informant. So, I'm in that airport and I fall out and I face plant in a piece of pizza, and that a pilot had bought me that piece of pizza, and I guess he got the EMS there because the next thing you know, I was on a stretcher outside the airport.
Yeah.
And they asked me the same question, which I've overdosed numerous times and had to have people called and had to be Narcaned and stuff. One time it happened in a gas station. There was literally a Lifestar alert, like Lifestar van.
Wow.
Gassing up. Like I probably would have died that night. But they were there to hit me twice with Narcan. So anyway, this was not a new occurrence, but this time, for some odd reason, I said yes when they asked me that question. Do you want to go to the hospital? And every other time I said, fuck no. I got more drugs to do.
Yeah.
Or like, I'm not ready to face life or the wreckage that I've created. So they take me to the hospital, and it's the avian flu happening. And it's New York City.
Flu. Yeah.
Yo, I get to this teaching hospital, which is Elmhurst Hospital in Queens. And I'm on a stretcher, can't even be admitted to a room.
Yeah.
Because there are people like sitting, sleeping all through the hallways of this hospital. So the last thing they wanted to do was for, a day later for me to say, yeah, actually, there's a reason you need to keep me. They just wanted to treat I totally get it.
Yeah.
But when I come to, like out of this overdose finally, it was like 24 hours later, and they're like, all right, so we're getting you ready to be released. And I'm like, I got nowhere to go. But to be honest, it doesn't matter. I wasn't even trying to stay on like I have nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
I just knew from those times, thank God, that I was, withdraw or off opiates long enough to know that there was something severely wrong with my lung. So anyway, they do some imaging. I tell them, you can't release me. There's something wrong with my lung. And they do imaging, and they find a grapefruit-sized mass in my pleural cavity, my right pleural cavity. So
what? Where's that?
Oh, the pleural cavity, it's like, so between the rib cage and your lung. That's your pleura.
Fuck that, dude. That doesn't feel good.
Yeah, like there's a condition called pleurisy, I think, is like, it's not inflammation of the...
and there's pleurosis. And,
There's a lot of pleura-related, conditions, but this was an empyema, which is another name for an abscess, but technically it's an abscess that forms within an already existing cavity of the body, as opposed to creating a new...
creating pressure on in a muscle or fat tissue or whatever. Yeah.
Of course, when they told me it was a grapefruit-sized mass, they didn't know yet what it was. So I'm sitting there for a few hours thinking I might have cancer. Anyway, it turned out to be MRSA.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, and they were like, you had to have had this for like well over a year.
Yeah,
it was just
to get to that big,
So, I was 21. I wasn't in terrible health. I've never been like tremendously immunocompromised, but that's what drugs will do, kids. Anyway, I'm 21. My birthday is 2 days away, and I had been telling all them crackheads. Oh, I forgot to tell y'all, Amanda and Mark, what they did was they wrote me letters that on this intervention, and they sent me with my dad with these letters, begging me to get off the streets because I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
And they weren't wrong, but again, that's what my goal was.
Nobody was going to tell you otherwise.
No, and I'm not going to sit here and lie like I am in this hospital going, well, I've finally reached my goal. It's time to exert willpower and stop using and get on my recovery journey. Like, it wasn't like that. It literally quite literally was the serendipity that I hope it sounds like, what it felt like, was that although no one should be able to predict their own near death, let alone numerous near deaths along the way, and actually succeed. Like, sure, I shouldn't say no one should, but no one really can do that unless psychic ability is real. I certainly don't have it.
Yeah.
I just got lucky, and my life got saved. So they had to do surgery. I spent 40 days in that hospital. I had to have a quarter of my lung removed. I had to have my ribs cranked open, a whole lot of things. And later on, when I was in my 9th step, I got to go back up to that hospital and thank the nurses that took care of me and the surgeon that did my surgery.
How long after your surgery was that 9th step amends?
That was, let's see, this was 2000. So I was in there June 23rd of 2011. I think I went up to New York in 2017, maybe 2017.
Okay, so like 6 years later.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
were some of the nurses still there?
There was one that was on charge at the time.
Yeah.
And so she recognized me. She remembered me. That was crazy. Like that must, I mean, damn, you'd think in New York City they'd get all kinds of randos.
Yeah.
I don't know how she remembered me, but get this. I leave a letter for the surgeon because he's not there that day. Where is he? In D.C.
Of course.
Like, oh, we traded places. It's trading places.
Yeah.
He writes me a text message 2 days later. And he said, I was emailed the letter that you left. I just wanted to let you know, like, I do remember you. And I was really praying that you would be okay. It like brings a tear to my eye. You know, I'm not trying to quote him too much, but he said, I only wish I had been there to meet you in person, to see you again. I hope you're doing well. And that was like the most touching. I mean, you know, again, like there are sometimes not only that girl that just rando that was in, you know, came from Utah, seemingly there to save my life. But there were a lot of good people, you know, good Samaritans along the way and then there were other people who wanted to take advantage, you know, but that's fine. That's what needed to happen. So ultimately I got, you know, the Casey Anthony trial was happening. So there was a point where I tried to push the crack pipe that I had in my pants pocket when I got in the hospital. Like, come on, man. You literally just had lung surgery. You're sneaking out to smoke cigarettes, and now you're in the bathroom trying to smoke crack. With 3/4 of a lung. Yeah. I needed to, you know, fuck around and find out. Like, so I start trying to push that stem, and then this thing hit me. I was like, this would be betraying that my life was just spared. So the thing is, I never really cared about my life. That's the point. And then suddenly I'm starting to witness myself do things like say, yes, I do want to go to the hospital. Yeah. Not by my hand. You know, like, I don't know where it came from. And then the next day when they say, like, we're about to release you, you can't. My lung, there's something wrong.
Yeah, I'm going to die.
Yeah. And then I'm in this bathroom alone, like literally like in a corner, might as well have been in fetal position. Just a broken and scared little girl. And I'm recovering from lung surgery with a PICC line in my neck.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, and because they couldn't find a vein. They took 32 people.
Which is a line from your, is it your thigh or your neck?
Neck.
Yeah, from your neck to your heart.
Yep. Ugh. Yeah, because it took them.
I can't remember. There's one there where they go in from the thigh all the way up to your heart.
The femoral artery, I think, maybe?
Yeah. And they
no, I guess it couldn't be because it can't be through an artery.
Ow.
Well, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But yeah, there's another one.
So you had essentially like a giant needle in your neck.
Yeah.
Yeah, fun.
That's fun. It's a tube.
They do. They take the needle out. It's
it's a tube.
Yeah, they end up. They take the needle out to replace it with. It's like a catheter.
That's not fun. Not fun.
It's not. So, but that being said, it did take. I counted. It took 29 people to find a vein, and they had to hang me upside down.
What?
They had to use an ultrasound machine to actually get the PICC line placed.
Yep.
So anyway, that's
Holy
that,
shit,
y'all.
dude.
I got clean that day. I gave I forgot to say, I gave the crack pipe to the nurse. I got up and I said, I don't want to keep going this way.
A central line.
Central line
goes through your
neck,
leg.
Oh, the leg. Oh, yeah, exactly. So that's how I got clean. And I'm sorry, that was a lot more than probably it was 30 minutes. But
no, that's
that was great.
That's fantastic. We got some questions for you. Eric, would you like to go first?
No, go ahead, David.
Okay. We got to the hearing loss, so I'll grab that. Okay, let's go to imposter syndrome. So you talked about it with, in school, and then you exhibited that through the streets as well. Like,
yes.
You're very much like an imposter on the streets. Did you ever have that feeling in recovery? Because I know some people do. Like, they're like, oh,
sure.
Should I be here? Like, do I deserve to be here? Do I
sure.
qualify? But did that ever extend into recovery at all?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I've felt it. So the one thing I've always been confident about and never questioned at all, thank God, right? It's nice to have one thing.
Yeah.
Was my intelligence. And I hope that isn't pompous or doesn't come off as such.
Nah.
But you got to have something. And everyone does have something, whether they recognize it or not. I'll find it for you if you like, because I'm very good at...
we can identify
I see
shit in
all
other
the best
people
in
all the
people.
time.
Oh, yeah. And I'm like totally happy to praise it for you, but it's harder to do that for me.
Yeah.
I can say though, like it's not a praise thing. I'm not praising myself. It just is. I always knew that I was smart.
Yeah.
So having that, any arena in which I've entered as a recovering person or like an adult, really, if it had to do with that, like if it was you're here because you qualify because of intelligence, I'm good. But if it had to do with almost anything else, then yeah, I felt like maybe not full on imposter syndrome, but just felt it really was though. It's always imposter syndrome.
Still that
somebody's going to find out I don't belong here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so in fact, this just sort of happened. Yesterday I was, I've worked for a recovery organization, not going to name names, a nonprofit for 13 years, and I got hired 9 months clean.
Awesome.
And as an accounting clerk and became HR manager and then was promoted to deputy director of finance and HR.
Rad.
And I've done that for 5 years. Now, all along, so I didn't get into this, but like I found out a few years ago that I'm on the autism spectrum. It's kind of a fad thing, so I get scared to even say that. But people have conflated it to be like,
oh, that's an
excuse
right
or
now.
something. I'm like, no, I like now, like pretty much immediately learned that don't talk about it. But it just is like
it's finding out more about yourself.
Yeah, it's all it is. It's a neurotype. It helps me uncover like, oh, this is why.
And it makes you understand the puzzle pieces from the past. And you're like, oh, okay, that's why I did that.
Yes, and it helps you to be able to say, hey, when you're normally a really self-critical person, it's actually you don't need to feel bad about that.
Yeah.
That's just who you are. And for you to try to change it is actually sad. Like I needed to go through a phase of like crying for myself, not in a self-pitying way, but in a healing way. Like you poor inner child, you needed someone to say it's okay for you to be this way.
Yeah.
And there was no one there to do that. And then that shame just carries and carries and it builds and builds and builds. So anywho, I got demoted this week. I could either take the demotion or a voluntary buyout, like severance. And I chose to take the demotion because, so essentially, like, I'm just going to say I got in trouble for a variety of autism problems. Like me thinking I understood clearly the direction I was given and that we were on the same page and then doing the thing. And then it turns out they didn't mean that. It's things like clear direction is of the utmost importance.
Yeah.
Like it. Anyway, there can be no ambiguity. And there was another circumstance where it's not just autism problems; it's also codependency probs. Hashtag. Like I'm saying this like hashtags. Autism probs, codependency probs. I made some poor decisions according to the in the eyes of this company, and I've been demoted, and so that I can't manage or supervise. I'm not managing or supervising people anymore. And that's where it's like not imposter syndrome, actually. It's just there was a time where I was like, they're going to find out that I'm not actually cut out to supervise in that corporate world, you know, in that cutthroat feelings don't matter sort of world. So whether for being an addict and like having a variety of character defects that are not always in check and including codependency, or whether it's my neurotype, it doesn't matter. It just is what it is. And like, of course, there's no point to bringing up those things. So I took the demotion, but y'all, it totally like rocked my world, you know? I don't do change very well. And so...
Well, also, like, there's more than just change there, right? Like how's your pride feel?
Oh yeah, it's
now,
trashed right now.
And like that's a difficult place to be walking into next week.
Oh yeah. Well,
like that, most people would say "fuck off," right? Like you didn't say that, so that's a big.
Yep,
it's a big thing.
Well, and I had to really like this week for the like more than. Thank you for saying that, Eric. More than ever, probably. This was the hardest decision I've ever made in my recovery, and it also because like to your point, Eric, I have a really hard time seeing the wrong because I wasn't gonna say too much about that, but like I'm really idealistic in my thinking. I'm really logical.
Yeah.
And so if you diverge from that because like it's in the opinions of others, it's the better move, but it's not factually.
Yeah.
I really struggle with acknowledging like that there was wronghood there at all. It's not for lack of accountability, although I struggle with that certainly.
Yeah.
I like want to find every other opportunity to take accountability so I'm not coming across as this self-righteous, no accountable jerk.
Yeah.
When really I'm standing up for myself because I never did before. Yeah. And I'm trying, to do that, but that's not looked upon well. So anyway, going into the decision, I had to really lean on my network. I had to call my sponsor. I had called my mom. Yeah, and I don't frequently like to bring her. She's in recovery too, and I don't really like to bring her bad news. But I really needed all the help I could get, and just the sense of like I didn't just get ostracized from everything I've known, but y'all, I have worked there for 13 years and I have worked 55, 60-hour weeks. It has become, So anyway, I've been told to try and look at this as I know that got off topic a lot, but
No.
I feel like imposter syndrome.
Is this a focus on you type thing right now? Is that kind of like...
Appreciate that, thank you.
Is that what the message was a little bit?
Yeah, pretty much the message that I got was that
it could be a blessing in disguise.
It could be a blessing in disguise, and that includes I was powerless over boundary setting with the organization, and they've just set the boundary and told me, you need to go have a life, because you're not going to move up, on that path any longer. That's the hard part is accepting the idea that the last 13 years have been everyone's forgotten anything that I did, that's the kind of addict mindset, we'll go there really fast and live there.
Eric's heard this a million fucking times from me, but I don't give a shit. I'm going to say it again.
You're not going to say it.
No, I'm not going to say that.
Okay.
No, one of my favorite lessons that my sponsors had to teach me in recovery is a reason, a season, and a lifetime. And every interaction we have with people, jobs, friends, everything. Sometimes just like we were talking about, people come into our lives just for a reason,
right?
Just for a very short reason, and then the next group up that are there for a little bit longer are there for a season,
right?
And it's 1 year, 5 years, 13 years, and then there's the lifetime, which is the smallest group, and then those are the people who are there throughout the whole thing. And this could just be a changing of a season, and we don't know.
Yeah, thanks. I know, and that's it's the kind of advice I give my sponsees.
We can always give other people
but I
way better advice than we can give ourselves.
I know, right? And if anything, that's a good. I can also find that gosh, I will have more empathy. I've been reminded. I've been humbled in a tremendous way.
Yeah.
But I've also been reminded of some of the of how it feels to be in a situation like this where it's been for 13 years I really haven't had to deal with that kind of thing career issue it's just been on upward trajectory. I've had there's been a lot of write-ups and there's been a lot of me not understanding why the company does this or that or divergence that I've had to keep my mouth shut and stuff and let's just call it a slow learning curve, for that type of thing. But not like this. And so it's given me not only humility of a different kind, but empathy, which I really value adversity. One thing that has really come out in my step work over the years has been I place such a high value on not only that all the story I just told, none of that's difficult for me to talk about, and it never has been.
Yeah.
Because I'm so grateful.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's where my gratitude, it's not sound cliche, but really, just like I set out to do, the gratitude that I have for my life comes from adversity. And if there's nothing that I learned in those 3-4 years, it was that. So in a situation like this, it is hard to find that place on my own, and I need other people to remind me of it. And it's hard to get there fast, Oh,
yeah.
But that's only because expectations and, like I said, change, and the pride, the swallowing my pride, there's embarrassment, there's I failed, what is what's the point? Anyway, I have to refine that. I have to get creative again. I need to I became a nutritionist. Nice. I have a master's in nutrition. I have a side hustle. I started and ran a food business for 5 years.
Really?
Yes. So
fantastic.
My recovery journey has not been only working this job,
No. It's just a chapter.
It is.
All right, Eric, what you got?
All right, so good transition to the nutrition thing, right? So
okay.
I've been stalking you over here on social media.
He just sits back there in his lurkum.
I saw your nutrition thing, but like you were also anorexic, right? And like so I was a restrictor.
Okay.
And
my question.
There's like going into I mean being a nutritionalist and then also like having an eating disorder.
Yeah.
Like that there's a fine line, right?
Yeah.
So I'm intermittent fasting right now.
Okay.
And my therapist was
life.
even just like, how different is that than restricting? And I'm like,
I'll validate you.
A little different. Well, you do get more energy in the morning. I will give you that. And you keep your like body like I don't know. I like it, but but we can rationalize, can't we? So,
yeah, we
but
sure
how's like your relationship with food now?
That is literally relationship with food now.
So grateful.
That is verbatim what I wrote.
Thank you both for wanting to ask that, because if there's something I'm more passionate about than
it's not talked about in NA.
It's not,
and it should be.
And it really should be. It needs to be, because the number of people that I know that are, it's such a secretive thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the people that have given me their confidence to know that they struggle in that way. Is many. There are so many. I go to Eating Disorders Anonymous meetings sometimes.
Nice.
And
awesome.
Another thing is finding out that I would say in the one meeting in Virginia I went to on Zoom a year ago, 85% of it was male.
Yeah, there's a lot more men.
Way more men now.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of like body dysmorphia.
Yes.
Like, so like you can't, like I have body dysmorphia. Like,
it is big in the recovery community.
I don't see
huge.
What my other people see when they look in a
exactly.
mirror. So like,
yeah, and focusing laser focus on that
like
one thing.
Problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yep. And I used to assert that it was body dysphoria, because I and I still kind of do, asserting like, no, I see exactly what is there. I just am hyper focused on the thing. Yeah, like I just justifiably don't like it. Okay, you wouldn't either.
Yeah, if you had to look at it every day.
Right. So for 6 years, I did eating disorder / trauma / art therapy.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was very cool. Unfortunately, because I am heavily I once had my dad scream at me to quit being so goddamn introspective. I've always been a very introspective person. It's kind of that comes with the territory when you're self-obsessed.
Yeah.
And always trying to figure out what's wrong with you to solve the problem so you can be better for other people, so that they can like you, so that you can feel worthy of love, and et cetera, et cetera. Right?
Are you my brain?
Yeah, so anyway,
This is Jack's totally lack of surprise.
I love that. Yeah, I did that therapy, but unfortunately she couldn't really corral me. I usually went in there and just not diagnosed myself, but would talk about why I did everything and didn't get enough feedback or, whatever. So the point is that I did that therapy. I also found I was going in there. I'm not downplaying the importance. The 6 years I did was critically important. And it also came time to end because I was over-identifying with being bulimic, being anorexic. I was going in there every week and saying, I am bulimic. I am bulimic. I am bulimic. There was no departure from, I can be not bulimic, actually. Yeah. I can be empowered to recover. So back in 2018, early 2018, I swallowed a fork.
What?
While I was being bulimic.
Wait.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah.
That's not good.
Trigger warning.
Bad. That's bad.
No.
Yeah, it's really bad.
How did you get it out?
Well, yeah, it was a crazy
Was that surgery?
day, y'all. No, so it went all the way down past my gag reflex, but y'all, if I had these nails, this would not, I'm wearing fake nails right now, and I would have not been able to save my own life, but thankfully I didn't have nails then, and I pinched that fork in the pinch of time at the very base of my gag reflex, right past the uvula. So I had half of my hand down my throat, and I'm in a bathroom alone. My instinct kicked in, my survival instinct kicked in instantly. I stood up so gingerly, because I'm scared to rupture something.
Yeah.
And I book it down the stairs. My grandparents, at the time I was living with them, they both had dementia. My grandmother still is alive and has Alzheimer's. Neither of them could have reacted or been of any help in the situation.
Gosh. Yeah.
But my grandmother had known that I struggled before she started to lose her memories. So she followed me out. I ran outside. Instinctually, I just knew I needed to get out because I couldn't get it out. Yeah. So I needed to get out. Yeah. So I get out the house. And I'm standing on the front porch. There's no one around. There was some neighbor maybe raking leaves, but I couldn't have spoken. So it's not like I could have called out. And she just was standing over me, crying and whimpering. And it was so painful to cause her that pain. But more to the point, I'm sitting there grasping this fork, with for dear life. And then suddenly, I'm pulling, so hard, and I pull it up past the bone here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ooh, it's brutal. Yeah. And then
I'm happy I'm not over there right now.
I'm not gonna get too graphic.
No, please get graphic. We want to hear it.
Well,
so go ahead.
There was a cough and a lot of blood that came. Yeah. So I don't really know because I didn't go to the hospital. That. It would have been.
I can feel that.
Right.
That hurts.
You never went to. You need to go to an ENT. Yesterday, man.
Okay, thankfully, because of my ear, I did, which I have a screw in my head that allows me to wear a hearing aid now.
You need an ear, nose, throat doctor so badly, Tara.
Oh, I know.
Badly.
So I have one.
Oh, so it's sort of like where a cochlear implant.
It's a cochlear. This is a cochlear product. It's called the Baha 6 Max. Yeah, so I wear that. I got that a year ago. It's really awesome.
So does it restore your hearing? We'll talk about that.
Well, it does bone conduction.
Oh.
So yeah, it's
cool.
It's really cool.
My headphones.
It's not perfect hearing.
No, I love bone conduction.
Yes, bone conduction headphones. I got to wear some of those years ago, and that's why I knew that this was going to work.
I've completely switched to those, except for podcasts and music.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, it's good because you're not damaging. Yeah. There's no potential damage to the hearing.
Because it doesn't go right into your ear.
Yeah, your eardrum.
So anyway, you extract the fork.
I extract the fork. There's blood. I'm far too embarrassed.
How does your throat feel?
Oh, so raw. So raw. But here's the thing.
Did you throw up or did you actually
Oh yeah, I that's the good question. That's the thing, y'all. When you're bulimic, if you don't compensate for eating a tremendous amount of food
were you
that you only ever planned to
You were a binger as well?
No, I've never done binge eating without compensation.
Okay.
So there was always exercise bulimia, and there was always never one or the other. It was always both together. I was always, exercising 2 to 3 hours every day, and also purging. And for the majority of the, like I would say orthorexia nervosa has always been, that was my, so relationship with food, getting back to your question, you know, was tough because of that. That was my mainstay. And if it wasn't that, like behaviors wise, it was chewing and spitting, which is not talked about enough. So that's why I'm mentioning it. Yeah, it's like, this is the way I put it to people. When you lack trust in your body so badly that you're not even willing to swallow, you know, like I distrust my body. I distrusted my body to be able to bring it back up.
So I'm chewing gum right now. So not gum. We're just talking about like food.
No, you're literally chewing food and then spitting it back. It's classified, like people, they refer to it as mastication disorder.
Yeah.
But it's classified, I think, like in the DSM-5 or like, you know, clinically it's classified as like EDNOS, part of the EDNOS cluster.
You're getting like the taste and then you spit it out.
Exactly.
So you don't get
Dude,
the calories.
that is fucking your mind up so bad.
So bad. And not to mention your insulin signaling.
Yeah.
Like you're releasing, and so I became insulin resistant through all that, like, by the way.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. And developed, like, I technically, if I ate carbs, which I don't, which, you know, that's another thing. I've had to remain.
If I'm doing that with gum.
I've had to, right. I've wondered that too, but I developed really severe TMJ.
What is that?
It's a jaw
disorder in the TMJ joint. So I was always predestined to develop that because I have a genetic condition. We're not going to get into that all that probably, but point is, the fork thing was a really big turning point. Now, I wasn't ready to, I wasn't able to
Was
completely
it a
cease.
fork in the road?
It's a fork in the road, bro. You did not just say that. That's perfect.
That is.
How did no one ever say? I have told the story not a lot, but I've told it enough times. Someone should have come up with that, and you did. Yes. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Oh.
Was a fork in the throat?
For the wind.
I mean, road?
For the wind.
Yes.
Dude.
Oh, that was awesome.
God, very good. So
you have to be at the end here almost. Like, I mean.
Yeah.
Taking forks out of your throat are like.
Ugh. Things started as so like I didn't feel like I could share about it in NA. When I did, it was only after I had accumulated 30 days of no behaviors. I was still eating disordered to hell in my mind, but I would share like, and I would even pick up a 30-day key tag in NA because I started to go to EDA meetings, that kind of thing. I wasn't ready to be abstinent, to be, you know, like, and so anyway, another thing I learned was that I needed to stop thinking about things so black and white. When it comes to eating, you don't get to just put the fork, you have to feed yourself to live. And that's always, I mean, so many people, if you're eating disordered, you have had this thought. If you have ever struggled with it, you've wondered how in the hell, and you've been in abstinence-based recovery, you've wondered how is it that the like, not cure, but the treatment for addiction, where if you're thinking of this as a processing addiction, then the treatment is contraindicated in this case. So how do you manage, right?
So we've had some people on here that talk about the top line and bottom line. Have you heard of that?
No.
Okay, so
tell me.
So with eating disorders and also like
sex is a big
sex
one.
As well,
right? Process addictions.
Yes, process addictions for sure. So there's a top line and a bottom line. So that your top line is all your behaviors and how your relationship goals with sex or food or whatever or money. Those are your goals and what you shoot for, and everything below your bottom line is all the behaviors that are unacceptable.
Sure.
And the reality is, you live in the middle.
Right.
And sometimes you're higher, sometimes you're lower, but it gives you that level of grace to. It's not abstinent-based recovery where I have to do this perfectly. Right. Because you're not going to do it perfectly.
Exactly.
Like especially for like an overeater or a dieter or whatever. Like sometimes like you're going to have a second piece of birthday cake. Like you're going to eat the donut. Like that's going to happen. And you can either fall to pieces and then completely, 3 sheets to the wind, fuck all after that, or you can just realize, like, okay, I dipped closer to my bottom line. And let's bounce back. Let's just take it for what it is, and give my take it easy on myself. Yeah, I did my best.
Exactly what it was. Yeah. After that, I realized 2 things: was that my therapist, no offense to her,
sucked. No, I'm kidding.
No, it's just she was probably right because she gave me this scenario that what if he was dead? I had been asserting for years that I needed an apology from my dad. And she said, well, what if he was dead? You wouldn't be able to get it. So can you act as though, and like do what you need to do? Like people have to like get over, okay, that it's, I hate to say it, I don't know if I even needed it. What I needed was to tell him all these things that happened and everything I couldn't say. So a lot of people talk about like kids don't have the vocabulary to express the feelings they're going through.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at. I don't mean that I really needed his apology. I just needed him to validate that my feelings were hurt when he left.
Oh.
And
oh God.
I had never said those things. It's something that people with eating disorders often deal with, alexithymia, which is an inability to express your emotions vocally. So it's basically what I just said, but like as an adult, never growing out of that, because you're putting the food in the mouth. Like it's symbolic. You're literally like you're avoiding
I'm
the
eating
food.
my
like
words.
Yes. And so all of that mastication, that chewing, like that, ruminating.
Ooh.
I was always having this negative cyclical
You're just chewing on your thoughts.
Oh, just over it for hours and hours and hours and hours, and it was a cage. And so anyway, that fork thing happened, and what it did was it empowered me to say, I know that he could be dead. He's not, though, so I'm going to get what I need. He came over, and bottom line is I told him everything I needed to tell him, and it was not graceful. It was like begging and pleading and screaming and crying, and guess what?
Yes.
I said, Dad, he didn't understand what to do. This man was paralyzed. He was like just shook because he doesn't deal well with confrontation.
Yeah.
And I told him, I just need you to hold me like I'm a little girl again and tell me it's going to be okay. So not everyone can get that.
Yeah.
But y'all, that was the actual turning point. Like that was when I started to realize that I can't be too hard on myself. I will fail. I may fail.
You'll fail.
And when I fail,
You're a human being.
I'm literally,
you can fail
I didn't just screw everything. So I stopped doing that. And I stopped going to therapy because I was over-identifying with my eating disorder. So all these things happened over about a 4 or 5 month period. Now, I would go back to therapy in a heartbeat now. Like, I'm not saying that I swore off therapy. I just recognized that for me, it was, unfortunately, with my therapist at the time, it was not actually helping me get through what I had set out to do with her, right? So anyway, August 29th, I go to the Orlando-based NA World Convention, so 2018.
Yes.
And that was when I was like, I'm ready. I'm ready to abstinence-base this thing. Because I had finally, I don't know. I can't describe it. It's just as spiritual in nature as like the end of my road with heroin.
Yeah.
But I haven't there's not been a single behavior. My relationship with food has been on only a positive trajectory, pursuing nutrition. And by the way, I stayed keto the entire time. I've been keto and gluten-free for 11 years. So
nice.
When I was in 2018, like I was that already, and people ask me all the time how I manage that. Well, I had to like face that fear too, just to show myself that I was not being orthorexic. So I have done numerous, like in the realm of 15 days where I've eaten carbs.
Yeah.
And without any fucks given. And guess what? Not a single moment of guilt, not even a shred of guilt, because it's all been out of self-love and recovering, like a sense of I am worthy.
Yeah.
An internal validation of that. You understand? That's what enables me to, and that's why I cannot feel bad for standing up for myself in meetings with my employer, even if they're, other people may disagree with my sense of, all I know is I retained my integrity through that. And that all comes from, like, that's when I really feel like my recovery began. I'm not going to go change my clean date.
Yeah.
But recovering my integrity and being able to hold firm to, I did this with pure intention, out of self-love, out of love for others, not out of fear, with pure motives. I did this or that or the third. Like, I'm not just talking about one thing. To live my life in a way that is conducive with my values. I'm not saying I do that perfectly, but I do believe that type of thing must coincide and that's with my recovery in from any processed addiction.
Yeah.
But that's my relationship with food is extremely I'm not gonna that sounds wild, extremely healthy. I'm just gonna tell you that
it's come a long way. I mean,
oh my God. Yeah. Well, the disease doesn't speak to me anymore about that. And
that's a good title too, though.
No,
I know. But the disease doesn't speak to me is also a good title.
He tries, and I'll say this, he will try, like occasionally. Like I got people at work on.
Okay, all right. I'm going to jump in and ask a quick question. So
yeah, sure.
Do you, I feel there's a big thing in recovery of kind of like anthropomorphizing your disease.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's doing push-ups in the parking lot. Ugh. I am not one of those people. Yeah. I am not one of those people at all. Like, and like I'm not talking anybody out there who does that. Like I'm not talking down to you in any way, shape, or form.
But it's a fucking out, dude. It's an out.
I think it
like,
can
people
be. Exactly.
Like I've seen enough people be like, man, my disease really. It was my disese's fault, and I'm like, I really have to apologize for that. And it's like, no, it's you, dude.
Yeah,
exactly.
Asshole.
So because
I couldn't agree more.
Yes,
the anthropomorphizing to me, it's like me playing into a cliche.
Yeah.
And it's not tongue-in-cheek so much. It's a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek thing, but it's speaking in the terms that we all understand.
Yes.
It's not actually...
It's kind of like...
a break from responsibility.
Yes. I say God just because it's convenient to say.
Correct.
Like,
same with me. Not correct, but I mean, I agree.
Just saying my long-winded explanation of what I really think is what, I'll just say God. It's just easier. I'll just the God or universe or whatever.
I had the other thing I didn't mention was the other part of this was that I had to redevelop my sense of a higher power, which is great because at the time I literally had finished the first 12 steps and was starting anew. It was the perfect time. Serendipitous as hell that I would, decide, okay, now's the time, because it was in step 8.
I'm all in on this because you didn't really broach this topic, so keep going.
Thank you. Yeah, 8th step was when I was like, I resent my higher power. So I knew it was coming for years, and I was worsening in my eating disorders. And so anyway, I had to develop a new concept of a higher power. Like it wasn't that the Russian Orthodox God that I was raised with, if y'all don't know, Russian Orthodox or Orthodox in general is not a shaming, or if it is, I'm so ADHD that I never even realized that we were shaming each other for like
so you were raised Russian Orthodox?
Yeah and in Catholicism, which is where Orthodox stemmed from,
yes, it's
and the simplistic thing I was told was like, the Orthodox just didn't agree with the Pope concept, so they
we're not exactly Protestant, we're not totally Protestants, but we're not really Catholics either. Orthodoxy is very unique,
right? And I'm grateful because I didn't come into the rooms with any kind of hang-ups about that God.
Okay.
I had sworn him off and become an atheist in high school. Like the first time I smoked weed, I was Russian? Like, oh no, God doesn't exist. I know a little bit of Slovakian.
Okay, we'll get into that. Yeah. Okay. All right. So
no Russian though.
You don't have the hang up. All right.
Yeah, so I don't have the hang up, but in other words, the problem was not that God, at all. It was just the unfortunate thing was that I had ascribed blame or assigned blame to that God because I had made a pact with him, quote unquote, that in step 1, with reservations, I was like, you're going to let me be crackhead skinny or I'm relapsing. Like, I need to stay crackhead skinny forever or I'm relapsing. And I'm not even like...
The triple C's diet is what I called it.
What is it?
The triple C's: cocaine, caffeine, and cigarettes.
There you go. Yeah. Exactly. So
keeps you skinny.
Oh, I know. My year removed from cigarettes has not been great to my body.
Oh,
it sucked.
Oh yeah, you've just quit though.
That's a terrifying prospect to quit nicotine. I can't even. We'll get there maybe someday.
Dude, it took me 11 years, man.
God,
took me 11 fucking. That's 11 years of recovery. I've been smoking since I was 11 years old.
Yeah. I haven't had any nicotine.
It was a 25-year relationship that, January 28th last year, that was my last cigarette. And I haven't had one since.
Has it been a year?
It has been a year. I have
and you never vaped. Is that right?
So I vaped for like when I first got into recovery. When I first got into recovery, yeah, everybody's doing this vape thing, and I'm like, all right, yeah, I'll try that. And I was like, this sucks.
Oh man,
I was like, this sucks.
Good for you.
Like, this is stupid.
I was like a year and a half clean when I switched from cigarettes to vaping, and that was another cold turkey switch. But I did it just like with the eating disorder. I literally was just, and with drugs, really, it was like, okay, I'm not going to say that I'm not committing to this. We're just going to take it 1 hour at a time. Like, they are not lying, people. That thing really works when you literally take it 1 hour. You're like you're not going to break apart when you actually fail. You're just going to keep taking it 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time. And that I switched, right? But then you find out that like vaping at that time, it was the Wild West. You could vape everywhere. You could vape on a plane.
Oh yeah.
And it was just like, it became such a worse addiction.
Oh yeah.
I was proud of myself. I am no longer proud of myself. So, I had to change the concept of my higher power. And this might sound kind of wild, but like I had learned about the idea of like a higher self, right? Years prior, the higher self concept. And some people shudder, like old heads, traditionalists, which I am one. I am very much a traditionalist. I believe in traditions, and that the only way that certain organizations or beliefs or concepts, constructs can exist is if there are certain founding principles that are maintained, right? I honor traditions is what I mean. But
that's the Orthodox talking.
Yeah, probably. And autism. I don't need anyone to influence my higher power. What I knew was that spoke to me, the higher self. And like, even if there are people who think like you're saying that you believe in yourself as higher power, they couldn't be more wrong.
Yeah.
What it is an unattainable goal.
Yeah.
To self-actualize.
Yeah.
Like to self-actualize and idealize who you are. And that was a really cool thing, and it was working like sort of in tandem with the God that I was raised with, because I wasn't totally ready to depart again from like this belief in like a man in the sky.
Yeah.
Because even though everything within me told me to, reject that, I had this really profound experience in that rehab after I had to get clean off of all the freaking fentanyl and oxycodone they had me after the lung surgery.
Oh, yeah.
And I had this profound experience with this priest, in there, and he laid hands on me and I just started bawling. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm back. But I wasn't ready to depart with it when I came up with found the higher self concept. Someone shared it with me. It meant so much. Anyway, that neither of those were working. And then in my recovery with eating disorder, I realized that, or like in months leading up to the abstinence, because I do believe that was part of the recovery. I realized that my higher power needed to be as basic as my body. My body literally wins every time.
Yeah.
If I try to starve it, it'll downregulate my thyroid, to make sure that I'm not external. Now, some people's bodies don't do that, and they literally can starve to death. But I developed insulin resistance. That was not as a result of like eating sugar constantly. That was as a result of my body going, you continually put me in famine. And if anyone doesn't know this, like there's a really popular theory that insulin resistance is an evolutionary adaptation that only some people, not everyone can develop it genetically. It allows us to survive famine. I won't get into all the biomechanics of that, but the point is that my body wins every time. It finds ways to outsmart me from actually getting to the end goal of being 90 pounds.
Yeah.
90 pounds?
Yeah.
How tall are you?
5'2". Not
that's
sustainable.
Reasonable, yeah.
Wink, wink. It's not sustainable. Heavy on the sarcasm if anyone didn't catch it. Okay, so point is, my body is my higher power today. Like, it's not the only higher power I have. I still believe in the higher self concept, but I let it tell me. That's where, going back to your earlier question, Eric, the reason I believe my relationship with food has been able to be sustained, or like a healthier relationship, and has only continued continue to progress and improve is because I don't tell my body anymore what it needs to do or look like.
You find it.
I listen.
You look for it.
I just listen and I look for it. Exactly. I let it tell me. And even when sometimes I falter and get this notion that I could, change it in some way. I didn't even tell y'all this, but in that couple months before, right around the fork incident, I had also gotten liposuction.
What?
Smart lipo on my knees.
On your
because
knees?
they were that thing for me, Eric, like the body dysmorphia thing.
I was like, what? Okay.
Yeah.
On your knees?
Yeah. Because I didn't. And
Where
the surgeon.
the fuck do you get lipo on your knees?
Well, so
it's a joint.
I don't even know. I know. I don't even. It's a good question. Like, I don't even know how this surgeon. Like, he was very irresponsible to take my money for this because they're supposed to be like.
He was like, sure, yeah,
screening.
Yeah,
they're supposed to be able to screen. Like I was not underweight for my BMI, and I think that's how it happened. But I was like, I had like a 10% body fat. Like, there's no reason why.
Yeah, we'll lipo those knees.
Yeah, I hadn't had a not to.
Suck out your patellas.
Apparently nothing's off limits, right? So I'm going to just say I didn't have a period for 3 years. Like, I was not well.
Yeah.
That's not good.
And this guy, like, when's your last period? And I'm just like, come on, man. People need to screen better.
Yeah.
Okay, for body dysmorphia and plastic surgery pursuits.
He's like, okay, $10,000 to suck out your knees. Okay,
exactly.
Cool.
3 years, wow.
All I'm getting to is I paid $10,000 to have basically a profound spiritual experience because the next day
that's not bad.
I woke up and my
knees are beautiful.
And no, it wasn't even. It was what I thought it would be, and it wasn't that. What happened was I felt the most intense sense of remorse, the most intense sense of guilt that I had. These cells we are born with, like you have every cell. It's just fat cells increase in size because triglycerides are stored within them. But you don't just, you suck out fat cells, they're gone forever.
Yeah.
And I know people villainize fat and all this sort of thing. I don't. And it is an organ.
Yeah, if you have none of it, you'll die.
Yeah, it's a dynamic organ, and it plays a critical role in a menstruating female. And if anyone is a menstruating female, then hopefully you know that it is imperative that we have we're keeping 18% body fat, or else you're not procreating, which is something I always wanted to do. So the thing is, I just can't even tell y'all. It's a wild thing that liposuction caused me to finally find my higher power. I realized that I had just gotten rid of a part of me that was born with me. I was born with those cells and I gave them away. And it was...
I've never thought of it
viscerally. It was viscerally, it broke me. And I thank God I had therapy that day so I could go and process it.
Yeah.
And I've never regretted something more. I still regret it, even though it was what I needed to recover from eating disorder. And therefore, I'm so grateful. And every day, if I really think about it, it's still surreal. The idea that I can literally just eat a sandwich and move on. What? That's amazing. But I still regret it, and I think that's important. I think it's important for me to honor what I had to sacrifice.
Yeah.
To have this gratitude, the damage I had to do to myself, there is, like I said about valuing adversity. Well, there's value as well if you look for it in your own self-destruction. If you feel remorse, remorse can be that thing. It can be the pain we talk about as required for change, you know? Yeah. And that's what it was for me. It was that and the fork, and it was the asking my dad to...
Pain is a skin changer.
Yeah. Yeah, and asking...
It never comes in one form, ever.
And just to be clear about the dad thing, I didn't need anything from him. I just needed someone to hear me share feelings I never shared before. I just want to clarify that. Yeah. So it's standing up for myself, and my own emotions. So anyway, all those things come together. Development of a new higher power, and my relationship with my food has never been better. With food has never been better. With my body, it's never been better. Sure, there are still things that I wish I could improve, like everyone. But I nowadays don't even use that term. It's not an improvement. It's just I wish I could change.
Yeah.
I don't villainize food or fat. I don't very like just the body will be what it wants to be if I let it. So if I give it what it needs to be.
What it needs to be.
So I do anthropomorphize my body. I hope you don't mind.
No.
As far as the actual disease anthropomorphizing goes, that is more of like a breaking identity. Like, I don't do it to just like get away from the responsibility of my actions.
I understand it. Yeah, it's like, hey, I'm identifying a piece of myself, but I don't think. I think more intellectual people are doing that, and like some other people are just like, no, it's a different part of me. It's a demon. And I'm like, it's actually in the parking lot. I'm like, it's not.
It's in the parking lot.
It's not
doing
in the parking
those
lot.
Push-ups.
Doing those. No, it's in the fucking mirror, looking right back at you, buddy.
No, it's a demon named Johnny, and he's doing push-ups and smoking cigarettes out back.
Yeah, exactly. And like, no, like I'm you know, I am my disease, but I'm all like, just like you said, like with the higher self, I'm also my solution.
Right.
And
there are many parts to me.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's one part.
I contain multitudes. Thank you, Walt Whitman.
Correct. And I don't want, and sometimes, most of the time, the disease's motivations are things I actually need to survive to reject. I need to reject the motivation. So identifying it as a piece is important, and it's not integral to who I am.
A lot of the times nowadays, I'll just call it the asshole in my brain.
Yeah, that's good.
Because it's just an asshole.
Totally.
My brain is not my friend.
And
anybody listening, your brain is not your friend.
No.
And like if you are in there alone, like you need supervision. You like do not go in there without supervision, because it is not a fun place, and it will more times than not lead you to just disaster.
Exactly. Like this week was a great example of that. It wasn't literally. There was
a lot of it's
nothing...
not even true. Your brain just says shit to you. It's just like
it torments.
You're not good enough. See,
exactly.
See,
I
told you.
It twists and
like
turns
it'll
so
say,
many
I told
things.
you. I told you so. You weren't good enough.
And then meanwhile, it fails to pick up some of the things that, like, my brain will fail to pick up some of the obvious things around me that would help me.
All these people love me. All these like everybody.
Exactly.
I
fail to see the love. The open heart, the people that are there to support. I will even question whether I can trust people who have shown me nothing but love.
We will ignore 90% of the gratitude worthy things in our lives to find the one.
Yeah.
To find the 10% of things that are not going the way our dumb plan has made up in our brain. But I think I'm out of questions. Are you out of questions, Eric?
Yeah, I think it's time to shut it down, David.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we would love to thank our guest Tara for being an amazing guest today.
Woo! Thank you guys. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. One last quick minute talking to anybody out there who's struggling, needs to hear a message of hope. What do you have to say directly to them?
Oh, on the spot. All right. Message of hope is that you are worthy, and you have it within you, even if your brain tells you that you don't. You have it within you to validate yourself and validate that you are worthy, and that your needs deserve to be met, and you deserve them just for existing. Please don't forget that. There are people around you who will help you validate that, and let me, just my voice anyway, be one of them.
Yep. Anybody out there, just remember, you are loved. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us once again. Go to all our social media outlets, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We are on Spotify, iTunes, all the good things. Look us up. We are Podcast Recovery. Please join our Patreon. Help us keep the mics on, because we are self-supporting. I'm not going to do the whole spiel. Most importantly, everybody out there,
stay safe and stay clean.